In the late 18th century, a man named Sir William Jones became Supreme Justice in India. There he faced a problem, because most of the Indian laws were actually written down in Sanskrit, an old Indian language. However, none of the Supreme Justices was able to speak or understand Sanskrit, and therefore they did not know if the law that they applied was actually a law. Therefore, Jones decided to learn Sanskrit, and he did this by studying old Sanskrit texts, like the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda was written down in the late Bronze Age. Jones was an educated man. He spoke English, Welsh, a Celtic dialect. He knew Persian, but also Greek and Latin, and even Gothic, an extinct Germanic language. So while he read the Rig Veda, he noticed striking similarities between all these languages. For example, the pronouns and suffixes were quite similar. Therefore, he concluded that all of these languages must have had a common mother tongue, a language that is now known as Proto-Indo-European. Before we start, I want to ask you for your help. If you want to support my channel, please subscribe, like, and share this video. This idea was rapidly adapted by many European linguists, and they began to recreate this extinct language, a language that was not written down, a language that was not spoken for more than 4,000 years. They did this by applying linguistic rules. One of those is palatalization. This rule says that harder sounds like k tend to become more softer. For example, the k that is still present in the Latin centum, 100, turned into the English 100 or the German 100. From this, they recreated the Indo-European Kim-Tom. Now, linguists have recreated more than 1,500 Indo-European words. They were even able to reconstruct extinct sounds. Linguists said that the Greek language once had a k sound. When the Mycenaean Linear B scripture was deciphered, they found this k sound. Following this discovery, European historians began to search for the origin of the Indo-European language, also called Urheimat. First, they suggested that Sanskrit is the Proto-Indo-European language, and therefore India the Urheimat. However, later they realized that Sanskrit is also just a language branch, and the idea was dismissed. Also, the discussion was corrupted by European nationalism, as anyone suggested the Urheimat in their country. Today, only two hypotheses survived. The first one is the Anatolia hypothesis. According to this theory, the Indo-European language developed in Anatolia. From here, it spread together with sedentary life to Europe and Asia. The other hypothesis is the steppe hypothesis. According to this theory, the Indo-European language developed in the steppes of southern Russia and Ukraine in the time around 5000 to 4000 BC. From here, nomads brought it to Europe and Asia. For me, this is the more reasonable. This has multiple linguistic, genetic, and archaeological reasons. The Proto-Indo-European language was not only the mother of many modern languages, but it also influenced the Finno-Ugric languages, who form a different language family. The only reasonable explanation for this is that the ancestors of the Indo-Europeans and Finno-Ugric people must have been neighbors. They were in contact and shared their knowledge and practices. We can find many different Indo-European loanwords in the Finno-Ugric languages, like Finnish or Hungarian. For example, the Finnish word onki originates from the Indo-European word ango, which means something like a hook for fishing. The nomads who lived in the steppes of southern Russia and Ukraine were indeed neighbors with hunter-gathering Finno-Ugric tribes that lived in the forests of the western Ural. However, the exchange was pretty one-sided. While we find countless Indo-European loanwords in the Finno-Ugric languages, only a few Finno-Ugric terms ended up in Indo-European languages. A possible explanation is that the Indo-Europeans dominated this relationship through the contact with their western neighbors, the old Europeans, most notably the Tripoli culture that inhabited the area of modern Moldavia and western Ukraine. Another big indicator for the homeland of the Indo-Europeans are the roots referring to fauna and flora, which have been reconstructed by linguists. Most notably, Hekwas, which means something like horse, Bay, which means bee, or Hel, which means deer or elk. All these names directly point to the steppes of Ukraine and southern Russia. However, this was also strongly debated. Linguists were able to reconstruct the term Lachs for salmon, which is, by the way, still the German word for the fish. Linguists pointed out that the salmon that we identify with this term does not live in the steppes, but can be found in the Baltic region. They concluded that the homeland of the Indo-Europeans must have been in the Baltics. Nevertheless, there's also a salmon that can be found in the Caucasus, so this problem was solved. A similar discussion was also caused by the reconstruction of the term for birch. Nowadays, birches do not grow in the steppes, but this does not correlate to the spread of the birch in the year 4000 BC. Archaeology also points to the steppes. Beginning in the 4th millennium BC, nomadic tribes began to spread in the regions that are later associated with Indo-European culture and Indo-European language, most notably through the Bell-Beaker horizon in the 3rd millennium BC. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, stay healthy. Bye.